draw pictures with a computer, that's not a game. You don't get a score, but we call it games, and there's sometimes this down thing. Don't play games, don't play around on the computer. And yet there's a lot of good can come from gameplay.
What's up, everybody? Sorry I had to move the stream out. Can't talk. I had to move the stream up to 12 today instead of 2 because I forgot I already had a meeting scheduled at 2 and was not able to move that. So, do have some updates for you. I don't know if you guys can pick up on the context clues here of new stuff that's in the works. This showed up over the weekend. You guys see what that says? Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm like one of the first people to actually get one of these. I have not seen anybody else with them yet. I got this early through Creality. They reached out to me and like, hey, do you want to buy one of these? Yes, I do, because you know, the last thing I need is, you know, another printer. It's not like I have printers just like literally laying everywhere. Still in boxes. I totally forgot I had the VoxLab Aquila X2 over there. Yeah, so people are asking about the SVO3. It's right here. You can see I have totally been using it, and it's not been sitting in my garage for months. Like, this is just, you know, natural accumulation of dust on a printer that's being used all the time. Oh, damn it. I forgot to set up a new giveaway. Let me do that real quick. I apologize. I really need to set things in my calendar so I can actually remember what the hell is going on. All right, let me do that real quick. Let's see. All right, my forms. Use Microsoft Forms for that. We're just gonna make it simple. It's gonna update this from September to October. And I think that'll be it. I'm gonna leave the same questions. A favorite printer, material, keep collecting that data. Let me grab the URL here. There we go. Pop out chat. And there we go. So there's the form. I will update the URL because right now giveaway.th3dstudio.com goes to the old one. I will update that. That should be a valid form. I should probably tell it to let people hang on. Oh, they changed it. Settings, accept responses today. Okay, there we go. We're going to leave the giveaway form open just because it's been short and I know people are going to watch the replays. We're going to leave the giveaway form open until 5 o'clock. So only enter once because I will disqualify all of your entries if you guys enter duplicates on the same day. So please don't do that. All right, I got to do one last thing here. I got to go to my web panel here and update the redirects to the new URL. Remo, get your snoot out of there. Not everything is about you, dog. Let's see. All right, change redirect rule. All right, so giveaway.th3dstudio.com should be updating to the new giveaway URL, or you can just hit the link in the chat. So, all right, there we go. I posted it again. So you just go to that link that I posted in the chat, and you can enter in, and it's a $150 gift card to the TH3D store. So, and if for some reason you don't want the gift card, you can just give us someone else's email, and we'll send it to them. So, all right, let's see what chatter is. We got, yeah, definitely not as many people at 12 o'clock Central as we get later in the day, but I figured I'd rather do a video and earlier in the day instead of nothing. So, all right, YouTube has better Twitch emotes. I'm not sure what that is. JD do you know of a motherboard for the Anycubic Photon that uses 2208 or similar for the stepper to make it quiet? Mine is just freaking noisy. I do not. I haven't looked at that board in quite a while. I'm assuming you mean the original Photon, which I have. Anybody in the area, like we're in Hobart, Indiana, anybody want some resin printers for like stupid cheap? Because I've got 5 resin printers. I got an ANET N4 and the other 4 are Anycubics. I got the 2 Photon S's, an original Photon, and whatever the one that superseded the original Photon, and 2 wash and cure stations. They're just sitting here. And I was just sitting here thinking, I don't have any use for them. I should just get rid of them. So if you're in the area, I will not ship them. Let me know. Send an email to streams@th3dstudio.com and let me know, and we can set a time to meet up because I don't use resin. I'm just accepting that it's not a market that I want to get into, and it's not something I have any practical use for. You know what I mean? I don't hate them. But I kind of want to just get rid of them. They've been sitting here for a while. I had them around basically as like, oh, well, what if, you know, we need to prototype something that's small. And the thing is, it's been over a year. I haven't had to. So, yeah, I mean, if someone wants to like come grab all of them, because they're all actually powered off of one 12-volt Meanwhile power supply, because their power bricks were just janky. All of them have died on me. I have 5 printers and the 2 wash and cure stations. Like, someone wants to come get all of it, give me like $200 cash and you can have all 5 printers and the 2 wash and cure stations and whatever resin stuff I have laying around. Like, I just want them out of my garage. I have 0 use for them. Anyways, let's see here. Kenneth is, I think that's Spaghetti Detective Kenneth. He said, I thought Creality hates you because you spam them on their streams about their closed source screen. I don't know if Creality hates me. I really don't care if they do. But also at the end of the day, they really only care about does my check clear when I pay them for something. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just, I don't think they really care. We buy stuff from them. I'm sure they are well aware of, stuff I've said about their products. I don't hate their products. I don't hate them as a company. I just, it's called criticism. So, let's see. Let's see, is the new giveaway link working? It is. Okay. Any updates on the Ender 6 enclosure top? So we had some delays with the extrusion, as far as I know. So I talked to Joe on Friday, or was it Monday? I don't know. This week's a blur. But they are moving along. We're just waiting on some hardware to come in to complete them. I'm assuming, because I'm going to bug him tomorrow. It's on my list to follow up with him tomorrow. I'm assuming he's going to have one this week, because he told me either Friday or Monday that he'll have something ready to test fit. And we did do some changes to it, so you can actually feed the filament in from any side, because all 4 sides are going to be able to be swapped around with the panels. So yeah, but yeah, hopefully we should have those soon. The EasyBoard V2s are still moving along. We had some issues with the assembly, and those have been corrected. It was just a temporary hiccup where the drivers we're like, oh God, did we get bad drivers from Trinamic? Ended up just being an assembly issue that the assembler was able to fix. So those are moving along. I'm hoping we should have them in about a week or two. So we've totally forgot about the holidays over there in China, where they just shut down everything for a week. So that also wasn't able to get hit. What am I saying here? The deadline. We were trying to get boards to us before the holiday. So, and they weren't able to do that, and I didn't want to rush stuff. So, anyways, let's see. Chi2 has an LV3 board with 2209 drivers. Okay, I have not looked at Chi2's boards, and I know they're kind of in hot water with the community over some licensing stuff with their slicers and locking their firmware. I haven't been following that. I think 3D Musketeers, they were the guys that told me about that. So I would recommend giving them a look on their channel. They were talking about the licensing and the SDK, and basically Chi2 is doing stuff to their firmware on their boards that will not allow you to use it with non-approved slicers. So, imagine if like you could only use Creality's slicer that you also have to pay for on Creality's printers. Kind of the same thing. They're going to shoot themselves in the foot in this market. I don't know if it's going to completely, screw them over, but I don't think it's going to be a good result, to be completely honest. I think someone else is going to come out and either make drop-in boards to, retrofit the printers if the printers are that good, or if the printers are that good, or if they're just going to have to deal with another competitor making printers, and everybody will just move over to those because they're lost my train of thought. Shit. Oh, either way, I think what'll happen is if Chi2 locks it down too far, is that you'll get a competitor that's going to make boards that are, more open and not locked down to specific slicers, and then everybody will just eventually move over there, and people will stop buying the ones that are locked down. I don't have a problem with closed source software, but going out of your way to lock it out and prevent people from using third-party software with it is kind of crappy. It's one of the reasons I don't like Creality's touchscreens. Let's see. Is there a way, Jay Moore, is there a way to get the Beaver to work on a 128/64 screen with a 427 board and the easy out? So there is a way, but it's not easy. You would have to repin the easy out cable, so the sensor itself, connect it to the J1 header. I believe it's the J1 header. So there's an extra header on those boards to the right of the power terminal, and the Ender 3 Max uses that for its filament sensor. So the reason we went the route with using the board still for the beeper on the 427, 422 boards with our easy out is because there are still people with the 8-bit boards, and there could still be printers old stock with the 8-bit boards. So it was going to get really complicated to have like, oh, if you have a Ender 3 or Ender 5 with the 422, 427 board, well, then you have to buy this other easy out kit and people don't read descriptions. So the thing is, the existing solution that works with the 8-bit board also works with 32-bit board. So just for ease of use and, not confusing people, we opted to go the route of just putting it on the LCD header, because that way you buy the kit, it's going to work as a filament sensor regardless. But basically that J1 header, I can't remember the IO pin number for that. It's definitely in the Marlin source code, but you could repin the cable. Their pins are labeled V, G, and S on that header if you look at the back of the board. And on our sensor, V would be the red wire, G would be the black wire, and S would be the white wire. So the VCC, ground, and signal. So you'd repin the cable, change the pin number for the filament sensor in the firmware from whatever the default is to the J1 header's IO pin, which again, I don't recall off the top of my head, but it is definitely in the Marlin source code, because I am using that sensor on that header because that's what the Ender 3 Max uses, because it does come with a filament sensor and they use that header. So yeah, it can be done. It's just how much work do you want to put in? There's a lot of different ways to skin a cat, so to speak, with different stuff. Like, putting different things on different IO pins. You could do it a million different ways, and what it comes down to at the end of the day is, which is the path of least resistance, especially when you're selling products that have to be easy to use and try to simplify things as much for people. So, let's see here. Where am I? My chat jumped again. I only got 39 people. Let's see. Okay. Nadav, is it the Ender 3 V2 in the box? No, Ender 2 Pro. Our Ender 3 V2 is in the print farm with a 128/64 screen. It's actually been pretty nice. No complaints with the Ender 3 V2 once I swapped the LCD, but I am told by Peter, who is one of our support technicians, and talking to other people in the community, that Marlin has released the new Marlin release, which we are using, has a lot of additional features that they were able to hack into the LCD, the stock LCD, so it is making progress. I wish we could see some of those new feature additions in the touchscreen LCDs, because they're basically the same. The screen that comes with the Ender 3 V2 and the screen comes with like the CR6 or the Ender 5 Plus or the CRX or the CR10S Pro or the CR10S Max. Those touchscreen ones, the actual core, the screen itself and the main processor, they're basically all the same. They're all D-Win screens. The difference is the one that comes with Ender 3 V2 and comes with the Voxlab Aquila and the Aquila X2. Those are all ones that have a rotary encoder on them instead of a touchscreen. But at the core, they're basically the same panels, the same CPU that runs everything. It's just the software that's on it. And the problem is, because it's closed source, it's really hard to do stuff with it. And the ones that come with the Ender 3 V2 do have a little more customization to them versus the ones like on the Ender 5 Plus or the CRX or the CR10S Pro. That's why it's just easier sometimes to say, screw it, spend the $20 and swap an LCD out. Because the 128/64s just work. They work 100% with Marlin, and it's like the touchscreens, they look nice, but at the end of the day, you're fighting with the firmware on there, and there's only so much you can do without source. So let's see. Luke says, the Ender 2 re-release was my idea, but I didn't get to weigh in on how it was done. Well, we'll find out. I kind of want to do this one this week, but I also want to get this done. So, yeah. Jay Moore says, is the 422 board in Ender 3 V2 good, or is the 427 better? So, that's an interesting question. They're basically the same board. They're the same processor. They both have Trinamic drivers in standalone mode. The 422 has the TMC 2208s, and the 427 has TMC 2225s. Now, the TMC 2208s and the 2225s are basically the same driver. The difference is the physical package they're in. The 422 has your I can't remember the actual technical term, but it's a square package with the pins on all four sides, and then the the actual ground sinking for the heat in the center of that. The 2225s are a rectangle package with the pins running down the left and right side. and it also does still have the heat sinking solder pad on the bottom. So, but in terms of them functioning, they're the same thing. Now, the 2208s on the 422 board, which is what comes with the Ender 3 V2, have a well-known history of overheating, and giving you step loss, giving you, missed layers, extrusion issues because the extruder stops turning. You have to keep that board cool. And while I can't verify, because I haven't cut one down and put it under a microscope, that the 422 and the 427 boards, are using low copper count, I would assume they are, because most of these companies are not going to spend the extra money. And the fact that it's overheating on those boards tells me that they're probably not using enough copper, and we've gone over this before, and it's not just marketing bullshit that we push with our Easy board. It's the truth. To give you an example, 2208 and 2209, they specifically state in the datasheets that you have to use high copper count, meaning 2-ounce copper, on every layer on a 4-layer PCB. So that's what we do on the Easy board. Now, it's way more expensive than a 2-layer 2-ounce copper, or a 1-layer 2-ounce copper, or not 1-layer, sorry, 4-layer 2-ounce copper, because when you go from 2 to 4 layers on a standard board, you have 2-ounce, half-ounce, half-ounce, 2-ounce. So 4 layers, and your 2 outer layers, which are usually used for power distribution, are 2-ounce, and your inner layers are half an ounce. So on our Easy board, instead of it being 2-ounce, 2-ounce, half, 2, it's 2, 2, 2, 2. So it's a non-standard setup, but you need that copper because the board is the heatsink. These chips dump their heat through the bottom of them. That's why putting heat sinks on the top of them doesn't work that well, because the chips are designed to sink their heat into the PCB. So you get these boards that are designed cheaply and not adequately for these chips, and what happens is the board gets heat soaked, and even with heat sinks on top of them, the chips still start overheating, and to protect themselves, they stop responding. Because if they stop responding, they start cooling down. The problem is then you lose steps, because the board has no idea that this driver just stopped responding. It's just sending commands at the driver going, hey, move left, move right, move right. And it just assumes, well, not move left, but it's sending step pulses, step this way, left, forward or backward. And it just assumes that the driver did it. So if the driver shut down because of an overheating issue, it's not going to know, and you'll know because you're losing steps on whatever axis is shutting down. It could be your X, it could be your Y, it could be your E. It's a pain. And, you have 2 modes with the Trinamics, 2 modes that really people use. They're standalone, which is the chips are just operating on their own. They're acting like a normal driver. There's no real two-way communication between the processor on the board and the driver itself. The processor just sending it commands, and the driver does it. Now, on a board like our Easy board, where we have this bidirectional communication between the drivers, they can talk back and forth and let the firmware on the processor know that, hey, I'm in an overheat or an error condition, and halt the print. Which you can, if I were to heat up one of the chips with like a hot air gun while I'm printing on our Easy board, it will throw an error and stop the print and tell me that there's something wrong. And if I have a serial cable connected to the printer, I can then look at the console output. It will tell me that it's overheating and it's shut down, and that's why. I am sorry that my buddy Cody is calling me. I see how it is, Cody. You don't know that. You don't follow the channel, because you would know I'm streaming if you did. So, yeah, so the answer is the 427, in my opinion, is a better board, because the physically larger package size that they use for the 2225s allows more heat dissipation and leads to less heat soaking on the board. We've been selling the 427 boards from Creality for, I don't know, 6 or 7 months now. We haven't had any reports of them overheating. I know people that have bought them to replace the 422s and their Ender 3 V2s, and we have firmware for that, and they haven't had overheating issues then. And Creality doesn't publish the specs of their PCBs, as far as I know, unless they recently started doing that. I haven't seen anything from them telling, like, oh, the 422 is a 4-layer, 1-ounce copper board or 2-ounce copper board. They don't say that. It's just, here's a board. You know, and the thing is too, if you want to avoid, if you're having step loss on your Ender 3 V2, the best thing you can do is try to affix heatsinks to the rear of the board and get some airflow going past it, because that's really all you can do. Putting heatsinks on the top of the board isn't going to do much because the drivers are designed to sink the heat through the bottom. So, in my opinion, run the 422 in your Ender 3 V2 until you start having issues. Once you start having issues, a 427 board should be fine, but still keep it cool because I'm assuming that Corelli's probably using the same layers and copper count on the 427 that they are on the 422. Why they even have the 427 in existence is like weird to me, unless they knew that the 422 was going to have issues with the Trinamics on it, with the 2208s in that package size. So anyways, let's see. I realize I've skipped over Symphony X Tech. I'm sorry. He said, any thoughts on a consumer price printer with a large print bed? What's your definition of a large print bed? Because in my opinion, a 300 by 300 is a pretty large print bed. You know, and I'd say like an Ender 3, the 235 by 235 size is a good middle ground. I would call that your average size, you know, which is the, you know, like the Ender 2, I would call a smaller printer. 427, Luke, what do you mean 427 corrected the 5-volt rail grounding issues? I wasn't aware of 5-volt rail grounding issues on the 422. That's interesting. It's the first time I've heard of that. Usually I hear about electrical issues because we have to deal with them. But yeah, large print bed. I mean, if you're talking like 400 by 400, you've got the Chiron, which I'm in between about. It's a decent printer, but it needs a lot of upgrades, and I feel like if I had to do it again, I'd probably go with a Creality CR10S4 or the CR10 Max, even though the Max has a touchscreen. I think the Max is a 470 by 470. If you don't need that big, the Ender 5 Plus is a 350 by 350, which I think is a large machine. If you need any bigger than that, I think the highest step up before you start getting into some really expensive machines would be like the CR10 S5, but the S5, you're probably going to want to put the Kinovo heater on it, because the S5, my biggest gripe about that machine is that it's a 508 by 508 bed with a 310 by 310 heater. That's literally the CR10 stock bed. I'm not even joking. It's literally the same bed that comes on the CR10, bolted to the bottom of a 508 by 508 aluminum plate. So just the center of that bed is actually heated. You can see why that might be an issue if you're using the whole bed. You know, you have a big printer and only the center of it's not going to heat evenly. So what a lot of people do, and I've built quite a few of these, is they'll use a heating pad from a company called Kinovo, which is AC powered, and it draws like 10 amps. So you need a circuit basically for this printer. But that'll get that heater will get that bed up to 100 degrees Celsius in about 2.5-3 minutes. Yeah, I don't know if you're still in the chat, but you know, I would say, you know, get the smallest print bed that will meet your needs, because if you go too big and you're never going to use it, there are drawbacks to having a print bed that's too large, because especially if you're talking like the S5 where it's a bed flinger, that's a big heavy bed, you know, it has drawbacks because there's more mass. Now, a printer like the Ender 5 Plus, if that fits your bill, I would probably go with the Ender 5 Plus over the, you know, like CR10S Max or even the S4, because while that's not a Core XY, it's not a bed flinger, it's a Cartesian machine and the bed drops in the Z. So, you know, my recommendation, if 350 by 350, but I think it's either 400 or 450 on the Ender 5 Plus, I'd probably, if that fits your bill, I'd probably go with the Ender 5 Plus. It's one of my favorite machines. I have quite a few modifications done to mine, but the main thing I complained about with it was the LCD was like that crappy touchscreen. I put our kit on there, and I had issues with the stock power supply. So like those two things right there, you know, which the power supply, as far as I know, all the new ones are shipping with Meanwells. I've been pretty happy with that printer. So mine's got the mine's got the Easy Board V1 in there. I've got our Tough extruder on there. I've got our Easy Flex system on there. Change out the Tough tube. And I use it for ABS. That bed actually hits 100C. It takes about 7 to 8 minutes, but it hits it. So, yeah, hopefully I gave you some info. So basically, my thing is, if your print requirements fit in the Ender 5 Plus's build volume, I'd probably go with that one if you want something big. You know, and I might be biased, but just swap the LCD. We've got LCD kits that make it really easy, and if for some reason you get hung up, we do actually support our product, unlike a lot of other vendors in this market. Let's see. Ooh, excuse me. Let's see. L3D. Luke says the Ender 5 Plus is 405 in the Z. I knew it was like 400 something. I don't print that tall. I think most of my prints are under 200 millimeters. I don't use a ton of height. Trauma is asking any Easy Board updates. Yeah, they're still moving along. I'm hoping that we have them in about a week or two. And we aren't shipping them slow boat. They will be sent via air. So as soon as they start coming out, I told them, you know, hey, once you guys get at least 50 of them, send them to us. Like, we have a couple hundred on order. I told them, you know, if you guys got 50 of them ready to go, send them. And then we'll just ship everything in the order they were received. So, yeah. Only so much we can do. I mean, there's delays everywhere. It's just a reality of these, you know, recent events. Superconductor, Marlin manual bed mesh leveling with fixed bed mounts. Is it a bad idea without auto bed leveling sensor? My funds are super limited. So I wouldn't do it, but you could solid mount your bed if you're using manual mesh leveling. I'm not a fan of that, but yes, you could do that. So DB3D, I hope all is well, good sir. It's going as well as it can, Dan. Let's see. Justin Dybell, the bed on the Ender 5 Plus can probably do more. I use 110 on my heat beds for ABS. The bed can hold and reach 110, no problem. Yeah, I mean, I think I could get mine up to 110. I usually do. I have an enclosure. You might be able to see it behind the rep box set up there. It's in it. My Ender 5 Plus is in an enclosure, and it hits 100C, no problem, and holds it. So, yeah, it's a very capable printer. I was very impressed with it. I feel like that printer doesn't get as much love as it should, because it wasn't one of the machines that had a ton of flops, in terms of issues. Like, they had the power supply issues early on, but then they actually switched to main wells, which I respect them a lot for that, and things started, you know, working. Because that was the main issue, was the early models, the power supplies would just, you know, cannibalize themselves. Like mine, as soon as we started heating it up, you smelled burning electronics. And it was that Changling brand, which you guys know I hate. I don't care. I don't care who you are. I will never trust that brand of power supply or any random off-brand one. I will never trust them in my printers. It's just not worth the risk, you know, because if all it takes is one power supply failure and I'm not there to, you know, manage it, you know, till you're dealing with a fire. You know, I have a lot of faith in Meanwell's products, and they've been around for a long time. And it's, you know, at the end of the day, even when you're getting into the bigger power supplies, what's $100 for a good power supply to have the peace of mind that, you know, that, hey, if it does blow, it's probably going to be fine. But it's probably not going to blow because it's a well-built power supply. So, let's see. Stephen Benjamin is asking, does your Ender 5 Plus LCD update solve the problem of the bed cooling after filament run out? Yes, because I do know how to properly set up firmware. Any of our, and this is common with multiple vendors, not just Creality, when they have a filament sensor, if they set it up to pause the print like it should, to park the head, pause the print, there's a couple of things I've noticed that they screw up on the firmware config. One, they have it so the bed cools off, which is a terrible idea because if the bed cools off, your print releases most of the time. So there's no point in resuming the print because it's detached from the bed. And two, they also fail to lock the motors. So I think it was a CR10S. That was the first one that had the filament sensor from Creality. It would turn the bed off. It would park the head, but then it would disengage the Z and the X and the Y motors. So when you would go to change the filament, you're obviously handling things on the printer, and the extruder is mounted to the actual Z or the X gantry that, you know, is being moved up and down by the Z motors. Well, you would be changing the filament, and the motors would move, and they wouldn't rehome it. You can only rehome on the X and Y, obviously. So the print would release, and just the nature of messing with the printer to change the filament would lose the printer's position. So essentially, it was a very useless feature until, you know, you put our firmware on there, or, you know, rolled your old Marlin that had things properly set up. You know, I pride ourselves on doing things right and making sure that things are properly set up and, you know, working how they should, instead of just like, oh yeah, it works, it triggers, let's just send it. Yeah. Let's see here. Give me 1 second. I feel like I gotta sneeze and I don't want to subject you guys to this, so I need... Hang on. Alright. I spared you guys my nose trumpet. Let's see. If you guys do not have any other questions, I know we only have 50-something people watching right now, which is low. Probably because of the time. I am probably going to wrap this up early and then get back to working on this. I got to clean this off, and then this is going to be the one I'm tearing into to get some firmware done. So, yeah, maybe I'll put my my test board in there. What do you guys think? Put the V2 in? Yeah, I might just do that. So, anyways. Justin Dybell, for the enclosure on my Ender 5 Plus, I have the top hat to make yet. I posted pics in Livestream. Yeah, if you guys want to share pictures, you can do so by posting in the Livestreams channel on Discord. So, let's see. Ooh, okay, I will share those pictures. Because these look nice. These look nice. Let's see here. Main monitor. I dig it. I dig it. That looks good, Justin. I like the blue acrylic. That came out nice. Hang on, there's one more. There we go. Yeah, so this was his Ender 5 Plus. He converted to Core XY. Definitely some Voron inspiration, I see. I can't remember what project this is. I know you sent it to me, but this little logo, this is like a conversion project for Creality printers. So, but that came together nice. I'm glad you shared that. I would like to do that. I got enough projects, but I'm trying to simplify things and not pick up any more projects to do. So, how many of you guys in chat? And be honest, I want to say, how many of you guys have like projects that you like, you know, started or bought because you were just like, oh, this looks neat, and then just, you know, either started it a little bit and then forgot about it? Because I have a lot of those laying around here. I'm just saying. So I'm trying to go through my stuff and just get rid of and sell off stuff that I just am like, I'm not going to finish this, you know? So, Dominic Verso, can I assume that the electronics in my Ender 5 will be safe inside a cheap 10 enclosure? Probably. I mean, I've got our MOSFET. I forgot about that. My MOSFET on my Ender 5 Plus died after a couple weeks, but I changed it out for one of ours. Far too many. Too guilty here. Tim just started a support group. I might have one or two. So many projects. We don't talk about those. Yeah. I'm just trying to simplify things, like, because having all these unfinished things around is like really overwhelming for me, and it's like I need to cut back and make a promise to myself that, okay, this is my list of currently active projects. Let's keep it to like 1 or 2, and then once those are done, then we can talk about getting into other stuff. So, but yeah, hence why I want to get rid of the resin printers. I don't have any use for them. So, you guys are pretty quiet, so I am gonna wrap this up. I'm gonna get this all cleaned up and start getting the firmware done for the SV03. Yeah, that's about it. I do know Peter and Mac were saying there were some weird compile issues with the ANET config on the latest firmware, which is weird because I know I tested that before 2.3.5 was released, but my guess is something changed on Platform IO's end, like a library or something. So if you're having issues compiling for the ANET, I think the older, what did he say? He said 2.19. So the Unified 2.19, that older release, which is on our GitHub for Unified Firmware 2. That one still works, but I don't know how many people are actually still using the ANET firmware, to be completely honest. I just kind of have it there for legacy. At a certain point, I might phase out certain printers from firmware support just because, you know, eventually they just fade out and people aren't using them anymore. So, let's see. I saw some questions here before I get off here. Let's see. Oh, Steve Smith, there's a reason why when doing mesh bed level and Octoprint, you need to have Filament loaded with your latest firmware. I'm not sure because I don't use, I'm assuming you are talking about manual mesh leveling. I don't use that. That's an interesting one. I'm assuming it wants you to load firmware. It could be the plugin you're using to, I'm assuming you're using a plugin to facilitate that mesh bed level, and it might be a command that the plugin is sending to run through that. Yeah. Resin printers are too messy and require a lot of filling. Yeah, that's what's kept me away from them. It's not worth the effort. Louis Diaz is asking, what fan deck do I need for a 5015 fan and your Easy ABL? Well, it depends on what printer you are using it on, because they're not universal. You'd have to find one specific to the printer. So, Blazeby, which is Tor, the DYH9 can die. Yeah, I think we'll discontinue that one. Yeah, it was never worth the effort. That thing was such a pile. Summerconductor, what's this? The LDO Ender 6 Reinforced XY Motor Upgrade Kit. Can I talk about it? So it's something I was wanting to design and found out that they made. I guess they made them originally for the CR30. And I got to follow up with them, but I have to figure out how to send them a wire, because Samantha used to do that, and Samantha is not doing our accounting and stuff anymore, so I got to figure out how to send a wire. We pay all of our other suppliers with like PayPal and stuff, but basically they're motors with reinforcements on the motor shafts for the Ender 6 and the CR30. So, you know, if you have issues with the shafts bending, because there's no support on it for the stock ones, it basically fixes that. So, I'm just trying to get caught up on everything. Oh, I don't know why I'm yawning. This is my third scoop of Ma. So, but yeah, anyways, just using bed visualizer only happens with the Ender 3 Max that has a filament runout sensor on it. I use the M420V command for the bed visualizer, and I haven't had that happen. So, but I'll make a note of it and test it, because like I've got multiple printers here with filament sensors. Actually, pretty much all of our printers here have filament sensors on them. So, but let me give Mr. Remo a treat here. Hey, Remo. Ooh, we have his attention. We have his attention. Yes, we do. Can we sit? Shake. Good boy. Can we touch? Can we speak? Nope, that's not a speak. Come on. You know it. Come on. Come on, do it. Woof. Give me a boof. Close. That was a whine. Woof. Go. There we go. That's close enough. This big ass dog, and he has this wimpy ass little bark. So, anyways, I hope you guys learned something. I'll go ahead and download this and upload it to the podcast. So yeah, with these streams go to a podcast. So if you guys are looking for an audio version of this, just search for Ask Tim on your podcast platforms. It's on Apple and Google and Spotify and Pandora and iHeartRadio and stuff. So after the streams, I download a copy and strip the audio out, and then yeah. So appreciate everybody that stopped by. I hope you guys learned something, and as always, happy printing. I'll see you guys on the next one.